Hi, welcome back to the Planetarium. My name is Houston. This month at the Planetarium we are talking about snakes. And just as last time we talked about venomous snakes and what types of venomous snakes, dangerous snakes that we have living here in Brazoria County. And for the rest of this presentation I'm going to be talking about perfectly harmless, not dangerous at all snakes. There are a lot of snakes out here that are not only harmless, but are in fact beneficial and helpful to have around. They can help with pest control and things like this. So we're going to look at some of the more common and the less common harmless snakes from Brazoria County and show you how to distinguish which snakes are the dangerous ones and which ones are not so much. The first snake I want to talk to you about here is kind of special because it is this is a harmless snake that does have a little bit of venom in it. All right, so this is, I said it's a venomous snake, and we learned last time that venomous snakes can be dangerous. This one is not. It's because while this hognose snake does have a little bit of venom, it's not enough venom to hurt a person. It's only enough venom to help it catch its prey, right? Which it specializes in toads, Gulf Coast toads, right? And the way it does this, the toads, when they're threatened, they inflate a little bit. They try to make themselves look bigger, but then the hognose snake comes in and bites them, which winds up deflating them, and can make it more easily eat its meal. So these guys specialize, like I say, in toads. And you can see here it's exhibiting some of its defense strategies. On this section here, it's showing you its belly. It's pretending to be a dead snake, and presumably you're not going to want to mess with a dead snake. It might be diseased or something. So as a predator, you're not going to want to go eat that. It's already a dead snake. That doesn't seem like it's very healthy. And then over here, in the other corner, you can't see it real well, but it is puffing itself up. It's making its head look bigger to try and mimic a venomous snake, make you think that it is a venomous snake. Or a dangerous snake, and it's not. But because it looks a little bit like a dangerous snake, oftentimes these snakes are mistaken for copperheads or rattlesnakes, and people kill them unnecessarily. But they're really perfectly harmless and nice to have around, especially when those toads get to be too many. On the next slide, we have a few different kinds of snakes that are all called water snakes. And water snakes are often mistaken, of course, for water moccasins because they are snakes and they are in the water. But these snakes are, again, harmless. They can be a little bit bitey if you mess with them, but as we know, we shouldn't mess with any wild snakes. And anything can bite if it has a mouth. But these bites are perfect, as I say. They're harmless. They don't hurt. But so you don't need to necessarily worry if you've been bitten by one of these. The way you can tell it's one of these snakes instead of a cottonmouth is cottonmouths and other vipers have a triangularly shaped head, and it's very striking. They have a very wide jaw where it meets their neck, and all of these harmless snakes, they don't have that. And they can look like that though, so it's extra important to be able to find images of the snakes that you have around in your area. In our case, we have 3 different species of water snake: the diamondback, the plain-bellied, and the banded water snake. And here's another picture here. You can kind of see it's got these stripes, and it's brown and kind of coppery in color, so you might think it's either a copperhead, or because it's swimming in the water, you might think it's a water moccasin. But these snakes are great to have around. They specialize in fish, and they're not after you. They're more likely to try and get away from you than to mess with you at all. I've run across these many times, and usually they're very shy and timid, and they'll only mess with you if you mess with them. Over here are some more snakes that you might find in the water, more rarely around here, but we have the mud snake and the crayfish snake and the swamp snake, and all of those specialize, just as their names say, they live in the mud, in the swamps, the crayfish and other small critters that are down there in the mud. Crayfish, frogs, occasionally fish, and crabs. But again, perfectly harmless. The one in the upper left is a mud snake, and it does resemble, maybe at a passing glance, a coral snake because of the red. But you'll remember that coral snakes have red and yellow touching together. There is no yellow in this snake. It's just red and black stripes, and only on the underside. Right. So one of the ways you can tell one of these harmless snakes from one of the snakes that might be dangerous. And here's a very common snake around here. This is a rat snake. Okay, and rat snakes can get to be very large. They can get to be upwards of 6 feet in length. And a lot of people see them. Again, it's brown, it's stripy, and people think maybe it's a dangerous snake and they kill them. But these are very beneficial snakes, especially if you don't want to have rats and mice infesting your home. These kinds of snakes generally don't wind up inside the house, but they can live nearby houses and keep the rat and mouse population down, and be very nice to have in that regard. So this is a rat snake. And then finally for today, I want to talk about king snakes or milk snakes. And these are very famous mimics of the coral snake. They look a lot like a coral snake, and that's their defense. People don't want to mess with a coral snake, and other animals don't want to mess with a coral snake. But because this milk snake here has these yellow and black and red stripes, that's its whole defense. People might mistake it for a coral snake. You don't need to mistake this for a coral snake. It's perfectly safe. The coral snake, as we talked about before, has red stripes touching yellow stripes on either side, and then black stripes. But nowhere on this snake will a red stripe ever touch a yellow. So there are different rhymes people remember. Red on yellow, kill a fellow. Red on black is friend of Jack. That's the one that I learned. You might have been taught a different one. But milk snakes are totally harmless, and so are the other king snakes. This is a speckled king snake down here, and this is another kind of king snake up in the left corner. Again, all these snakes can resemble venomous snakes, but what you need to do is, if you're interested in going in a place where snakes are abundant, educate yourselves on which ones are and aren't, and try and learn better how to identify which ones are dangerous.